Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another installment of TEDXcellence, the show where we listen to people say things about stuff and we think about them in a civil fashion, and then do a bingo card. And I come to you live from Crater Valley on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to Thursday. Before I begin, I am overwhelmed. Or as maybe Collective Soul would say, I am overcome. Brett Stoka, can you have $5? You can. I give you permission to have $5. I am bowled over by your generosity both once and now twice. I don't know what to say. I do not know what to say. That is beyond the beyond, Brett. I will be paying all of this forward. I don't have words elsewise to express my gratitude for your generosity. And that has been, in some ways, how I've been the last 24 hours. Oh, that was a live song. Pardon me. That wasn't Collective Soul. That was live. My apologies. Thank you, Frosted Glass. Thank you so much, Stoka. I really, really, really appreciate it. I'm going to pay that forward very soon. Thank you. Yeah. So for those of you listening in the future, I apologize. I have to start this episode off with a little bit of a different opening, as it were. The events of the last 24 hours have been particularly disturbing in a lot of ways, and also poignant, I think, for what I do after a fashion and what we do here on this particular Holy cats! Derek LaRue, as always. Thank you so much for your generosity, and really appreciate it. Hope you're having a good evening and hope you enjoyed the show. I am overcome. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because this is not the platform to talk too stridently about it, but it's also something that's happening in real time. I know that in about half an hour or so, there is a planned press conference for an update regarding the hunt for the killer of Charlie Kirk. Yesterday, September 10th, 2025, Charlie Kirk was assassinated in Utah. Full transparency, I am not, or have never been, the biggest Charlie Kirk aficionado. Not in the sense that I had some overwhelming disagreement with him or something. As I described last night on Monkey's channel, it's sort of like if you have a friend who recommends a band to you that they really like, and you listen to a couple songs and you go, all right. That's about as close as I ever was to being a fan of Charlie Kirk. Not out of animus, just out of sort of, I guess, overall disconnected apathy. I've come to know a lot more about him in the last 24 hours, that's for sure. The one thing I did know about him prior to yesterday was that if someone asked me, what do you know about Charlie Kirk? I'd say, oh, he's the guy that sits in front of a crowd of people with a microphone and has civil debates, civil discourse. That's about as much as I knew about him 24 hours ago. And at its core, I think that's the most... if there's a memorial to be had about the guy, it's to push that forward. And at the risk of sounding like I'm self-aggrandizing, that's what we do here on this show, and I like to think over the course of my channel's lifetime. We listen to what people have to say about certain things, sometimes weird things, sometimes not so weird things. We listen to them intently, we dissect them, we debate them, and then we have a bingo card at the end to hash out anything that remains. And as I have since the beginning of, I'm coming up on my 9th anniversary on YouTube, and from the beginning until now, if there's a core principle that I certainly believe I share with Charlie Kirk, and that is the free expression of ideas and the ability to have a civil discourse about things. And despite all of the tragedy, the horror, and the absolute inhumanity of some people out there on the intertubes the last 24 hours, I'm going to look past that, try to have a little levity, have a little fun with you guys, and get a little escape. Little escape by practicing the very thing that certain people out there would prefer not happen. Free thinking, free exchange of ideas, civil discourse, rational debate, and with a little humor involved. As I said, in about half an hour from now, there will be a press conference updating things. I won't be watching it or broadcasting it here, but if people in the chat want to update me on what's going on, I'll be happy to update the rest of you as well. But I will be keeping an eye, at least here and there, on Twitter on the off chance something really major happens. But Kiro Soldier, thank you so much. The cruelty towards Charlie Online is sickening. I don't want to divert too much, but yeah, it reminds me a lot of the death cult mentality that I was seeing during the course of the pandemic and the lockdown. Salivating over the death of someone. You could make an argument, oh, well, when Osama bin Laden, et cetera, yeah, I suppose. In all cases, I'd prefer that people like that be brought to justice alive, and then whatever happens after a conviction, so be it. But elsewise, no. Just no. It just no. I don't want to dwell on it. I've been marinating in that stuff for the last 12 hours. No offense, Kiro Soldier, this isn't coming down on you. It's just, we're here to lose ourselves for a little bit in something different. But before I get to tonight's topic, who's joining me? Holy cats, on this beautiful Thursday evening. Kevin Ellis, looking forward to seeing this. Well, I'm glad, Kevin. And if you're over on the X Machine, please do share this out. If you see it on the X Machine, I am simulcasting on the X Machine. Appreciate that. Advocatus Diaboli, good evening. Morgan King, hello. Who else is here? Mike R., good evening. Random American, hello. The Alexander, hello. Wheezy McBluntblowin, hello. Guess who went grocery shopping and now has a whole shit ton of Marvel stickers? They were handing them out the cashier, just gave me a wad of nice Marvel stickers. You can put them on your Trapper Keeper. Yeah, remember Trapper Keepers. Adabisi, hello, good evening, nice to see you. Miranda Stone is here, guys. I don't know if you know about Miranda Stone, but if you don't know about Miranda Stone, let me... Good evening, Keeverdam, and thank you, Keeverdam, as always, for providing the link, guys, at the top of the chat box for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society donation page. Please, if you have the ability, donate to that, and even if you can't, if you can share that out on social media, that would be appreciated. With the abundance of generosity tonight, I will be making certainly a donation to that in the very near future. So thank you so much for that, Keeverdam, and thank you guys so much for your consideration on that. Who else is here? Oh my gosh. Scrolling. Resolute Germ, good evening. JPS, hello. Corey Suzuki, hello. Brian Morissette, good evening. Robert Pincus, hello. Oh my gosh, so many people. The Best Remy, hello. Zan Wild, good evening. Frosted Glass, of course, good evening. Ostzan, hello. Amethyst Owl, good evening. Who else is here? Kayshul, hello, and she's also over on the X Machine as well. Hello, everybody on the X Machine. And if you're on the X Machine, hey, you could always subscribe to my YouTube channel, too. Pope Tyrannus III, the Blessed Lich, good evening. 01 Portnoy, hello. Keldrig, nice to see you. Daryl Odell, hello. Amada Wolfchild. Scribe is still criminally understubbed. I agree, everybody. I don't know how to bring that series back. I had such a bad experience with strangers I didn't know coming, hey, could you do one of those videos about me? Like, this is for people that I know and who are you? It became very awkward back in the olden days, but that's a story for another time. Anybody else? Is everybody in? The ceremony's about to begin. Full Metal Joker, hello. And, oh my gosh, so many people. Mort 155. Engagement. We'll watch later. Well, are you presenting me a ring or something? Oh, Theater Winch Ginger. Good evening. And I think that's everybody. If I missed anybody, Spider-Man at the last second. Hello. If I missed anybody, if you're lurking, if you're in the future, good evening. Okay, guys, tonight's bingo card is bingo card B as in Joy Reid. That was the selection on the bingo poll on Twitter to select the best, I suppose, former MS or NBC employee. So Joy Reid was the winner. There's to get your bingo cards. Be ready. Links are in the description below. Captain Fandom Nerd, hello. And so tonight's topic, it stars a celebrity of a kind. Yes, former political guru at was it MSNBC or NBC News, one of the two, Chuck Todd, who is now a former employee of that institution, and also a friend of our favorite friend at CNN, Chris Cillizza. Yeah, they're both YouTube Substack buddies now. But Chuck Todd wants to tell us why it's time to expand the House of Representatives. Now, admittedly, I am not a political scientist, but I'm not quite sure, and I can't wait to hear how making government bigger, adding more politicians into the mix of an already decidedly gridlocked and corrupt system is going to make things better. But we'll hear him out, and we will discuss it as we go. So with that, this one clocks in at just over 12 minutes. I'll start off with a few seconds for a sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear it, and then we will proceed.
All right, let me start with a question.
I love questions. Do you like questions? You guys hear that? Do you hear that there's a question coming? Let me know in the chat. Here it says Advocast Diaboli. I can hear, says Miranda Stowe. I'm glad you can hear, but can you hear this? Ambiguity is ambiguity. I shot that elephant in my pajamas.
When's the last time you felt like your member of Congress represented you?
When was the last time I felt like my member of Congress represented me? Well, I guess it depends on what you mean by representation. Do you mean as though it were a clone of me, or do you mean in the sort of legislative, democratic sense of representation?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
You're laughing, exactly.
I wasn't laughing, but okay.
You're not alone.
You are not alone.
I get this question very frequently.
Really? People come up to you and ask you, do you really feel like your member of Congress is representing you? People ask you that question. I don't know if that's an anecdote that probably never happened, but still.
Question very frequently. What the hell is going on in Washington?
Oh.
And do you have any idea what my representative does for me?
Oh, okay. I misunderstood.
I totally get it. Look, we live in a time of deep cynicism, lot of distrust. We don't like how these guys are operating.
Yeah, that's only, that time is only now. It hasn't been persistent throughout the course of American history or anything.
And you look at it, feels like money in politics keeps average people out of Washington, gerrymandering.
Okay, this is a small pet peeve. The guy's last name was pronounced Gary, not Jerry. So it's gerrymandering, not gerrymandering. Just being a little bit of a snob, okay?
Too many lobbyists, partisanship, polarization. So all of those contribute to this feeling.
Yes.
But there's actually a foundational reason, I think, that you feel so distant from your government.
Geography?
And it goes back to the loss of what was supposed to be fundamental.
The loss of what was supposed to be fundamental. Again, not a political scientist. Do tell.
The House of Representatives was designed to be the people's house, and right now, it is no longer built for the people.
Okay. There's your proposition. Do explain.
Let me explain.
Yes.
Our framers, look, they had some flaws.
Yeah. Wooden teeth.
But they created a pretty brilliant blueprint.
Yeah.
The problem is we don't follow that blueprint very often.
Well, of course, I guess it depends on what part of the blueprint you're talking about, because that blueprint was created some 300 plus years ago now. No? Close to. Yeah, okay, 275 or whatever. I'm an English major, not a math major. Anyway, it was a long time ago, so it might have changed a bit.
Certainly not as often as we should.
Okay.
And when it came to the creation of a Congress, and specifically the House of Representatives, the whole point of the creation of the House of Representatives was to make it the people's house.
Okay, you've used that phrase twice now. How does that translate over into not only modern politics, but also modern population numbers?
To give access to an average person to a seat at the table for power.
Okay, that is insane. Because here's the thing. Average people, I'm going to sound so elitist to say, well, I mean, I'm an average person. are not that smart. And especially in the realm of politics and the levers of government, an average person, okay, are we going to have Zoom meetings for everybody to attend House of Representatives things and everybody gets a say? Is this going to be like, the guy that was trying to sell the voting algorithms in that old TEDx I watched, or the guy that was trying to sell the idea of voting by phone?
Okay, we created our own version of the House of Lords with the Senate. We weren't going to give the people's house full control, okay?
Okay.
But we were going to give them a seat at the table.
In the most abstract of senses. What? He's got some time left. I'm just like, okay, I get it. Now get down to brass tacks.
Right? We created this sort of semi-elected monarch with the presidency.
Semi-elected monarch. Well, I'll tell you what, he's more, the presidency and the executive is more of a monarch now. And you know whose fault that is? I'll tell you, Congress, which includes the House of Representatives. They have ceded and abdicated so much power and authority to the executive over the last several presidencies, promulgated so much power into the executive that you're probably not too far off the mark to calling the presidency a monarch at this point. But that's not the fault of the president, so much as it's the fault of the parties giving over more power to take the weight of decision-making off of them, the Congress, and power that they will never cede back because they're always got their fingers crossed. For as much as they complain about Donald Trump abusing his power, exceeding his authority, they're just waiting. They're just waiting on the other side of the aisle. No matter what president is, it's always the opposite side. They're just waiting to get back into that office so they can use those toys for themselves. So anyway, Kirill Zolger, thank you so much. Even Hillary has stated Democrat voters are stupid. Or idiots, pardon me. Sure. I think of that line from Men in Black, like a person can be smart, but people are dumb, frightened, reactionary. I'm misquoting it completely, that kind of thing. It's like, a mob is only as intelligent is only half as intelligent of its dumbest member. Something like that. I've heard that before. But anyway.
We had the big people in robes with the judiciary, that House of Lords. But the House of Representatives, that was our access to power. That was our access to a seat at the table.
Well, I mean, maybe it's my idealism. I would hope that any elected official, by extension, is a representative of the people, since it was the people that voted them in. I know, idealistic. I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop here.
And they had a pretty interesting design, which was the House was going to expand with the population of the country.
Right.
And for 120 years, it worked pretty well.
It did? Can you quantify that?
The first Congress had 65 members of the House. And 120 years later, in 1913, we got up to 435 members of the House.
Okay. I'm going to go to the bingo card real quick, because this is such a diversion from usual subject matter that I'm wondering if we're hitting any marks at all. Let's go over the bingo card real quick, guys, to remind ourselves what we're listening for. This is bingo card B. Links are in the description. Marginalization. Well, I mean, if he's talking about expanding the House of Representatives, I assume that the concept of disenfranchisement will come up. So we could maybe circle that sooner or later. Self-vilification or wretchedness? Not yet. Contradicts own point or fails to make argument? Not sure yet. Feminism? No. Microaggressions or unconscious bias? Remember, that has to be that those elements or those concepts are used in the presentation, not that we think that the speaker possesses them. Privilege? Possibly. Benevolent condescension? Maybe. Weightless example or non sequitur? Not yet. Plays victim? I guess it depends. Collectivizes own demographic. That's going to be a tough one, because if he's just talking about like the American people or the electorate or something, he belongs to that. So let's wait and see. Economic disparity, possibly. Deceptive statistics. Haven't heard anything that feels deceptive yet. Attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase. A list. Maybe. Mind reading or assumes motives. a little bit at the front where he's like, haha, I knew you'd be laughing, but I'll wait. Patriarchy, anecdote that probably never happened, diversity, equity, and or inclusion, or the non-meritocratic elevation of someone. We can take that as otherwise, but he hasn't said that yet. White supremacy, childhood or family anecdote, not yet. Systemic or institutional? Yes, I'm going to circle that one because just by definition, Congress, the House of Representatives, the Senate, those are institutions. We're talking about political system, democratic system, or system of a constitutional republic. Leaves out vital context, not yet. Sales pitch for product or service. So far as I know, he's pitching an idea. We'll wait and see if it's attached to a product or a service. And lastly, word salad. Not so much. Okay, so far, a lot of maybes, a lot of almost theirs perhaps, but on the board, free space and systemic or institutional, and we'll move on.
Every 10 years with the census, we didn't just reapportion where congressional districts were. We actually expanded the number of congressional districts.
Uh-huh.
But then 1920 happened. 1920, that census, there was a big fight. I know you'll be shocked to learn that Congress was polarized and undecided of which party should get the advantage when it came to reapportionment and redistricting and all that. So they had a big fight about where to expand the House and who should get the advantage, urban communities, rural communities, et cetera.
Okay, so the argument was had in 1920, and what decision did they come to?
Well, they couldn't come up with a solution.
Okay, so then, here's what I assume will be the remainder of this talk. Chuck Todd is going to come up with the solution that the 1920 Congress could not, since I'm assuming they defaulted to just limiting the number of representatives.
So 1930, they created this hard cap.
Right, 1930.
435 members. They locked it in 1930.
Okay, so Chuck Todd is going to give us a sterling argument as to why the capping of the number of representatives in 1930 was wrong, and he's going to give us a solution to address what their concerns were then and whatever concerns have existed since.
At that point in time, one member of Congress represented just under 300,000 people.
Okay.
That's a pretty reasonable ratio. That was 1930.
Hey, Chuck. Based on population, I mean, doesn't that mean that like California and New York would have like the most representatives there? If you actually just based it on population count. Am I wrong about that?
This is 95 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And where are we? We now have one member of Congress for every 800,000 citizens.
Okay.
The country's population has tripled, and Congress has stayed the same.
Uh-huh.
So let's think about what a congressional district of 800,000 people is.
How many congressional districts actually contain 800,000 people? I mean, nationwide.
And put it in context.
Okay.
800,000. That's a large city. Austin, Texas is America's 14th largest city. It doesn't quite have 800,000 people.
No, okay.
That's a major metro area. Does one person, is that a community of interest, or is that a lot of communities of interest?
Okay, Chuck, as you say that, an old saying comes to mind. You can't please all of the people all of the time. Even if we were in a place where every individual representative represented 300,000 people, they wouldn't be representing a hive mind.
It is hard for one member of Congress to represent every community in that major 800,000 populated city.
And 300,000, I mean, at a certain point, Chuck, it just becomes irrelevant.
So what do you get? You get members of Congress that represent factions within factions.
Chuck, They represent political parties first, which has a very generalized number of priorities and virtues and principles and such, which are always going to be in opposition in some form or another to everybody on the other side of the aisle with our effective two-party system. You're never going to please all of the people all of the time. You know, and let's say you have a district that has 800,000 people in it, and 500,000 of them are Republicans, and 300,000 of them are Democrats. But the rest of the state is effectively blue. So all of the Republicans have kind of given up on the process because they're not going to be represented anyway, because most of the state is going to be represented by Democrats regardless. So they kind of just don't vote. And then the Democrats vote, and they end up getting the representative that they want. You know, you got a whole population that feels disenfranchised by the overtaking of the other party. And then they definitely don't represent those people. What do you do then, Chuck? If you know for a fact that the demographics of your district are not apportionate to the person representing that district, what do? Do you kick that person out? Oh, you're not representing the majority of your district. No, you don't do that. Because if you don't choose to participate in the democratic process to elect somebody, then you get what you pay for. But that's your choice as well, to not participate. Okay, Chuck. Again, I'm not a political scientist. If I'm talking complete nonsense here as a layman, by all means, correct me in the chat or in the comments. But my cynicism is not rising, or sorry, not alleviated by the notion of adding more representatives.
Right? Maybe it's a primary voter faction. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a business interest that's dominant enough that they are able to have the financial power to create that.
Maybe it's a special interest that people like, that other people don't. What do you do, Chuck? How do you solve for this problem?
But what it is not somebody who's representing everybody's interest or a large chunk of that district's interest.
Okay, so should we have representatives voted in by specific special interests? Like we have... I mean, you know what? Let's just get rid of the idea of constituent representation altogether. Let's just elect lobbyists. That's what I'm hearing here, right? Like the building owners or the whatever you call it, like the building association of State X or whatever, they have their representative, and the fish catchers get their representative, and the Sunday Sewing Club gets their What are you saying, Chuck? I can't wait.
They don't know everybody's local school system.
No, who could?
They don't know everybody's transportation system.
There's only a couple to go by. I mean, either you got the car, bus, rail, or by foot. Maybe bicycle, maybe moped, maybe Segway. Maybe those little sneakers with the wheels in them.
They don't know exactly how to go to Washington to represent everybody in their community of interest. They choose to represent whatever community of interest gets them reelected.
And your panacea to this is what?
And when you have that large of a constituency, that means it's a lot easier to manipulate.
Chuck, at 300,000 constituents, I just try to think in my mind. Can I visualize 300,000 people? Like when I used to go to the hockey games with my dad, the arena that we were in, it was a very small arena at the time. It held, I think its maximum capacity was like 5,000 people. And only on a couple of occasions did I ever see the arena filled up, at least what my little, 12-year-old eyes could assume was, max capacity. And it was beyond my ability to sort of, calculate. It's just a mass of people, 5,000 people all gathered in one place screaming and yelling at the hockey game. Now, take that number and multiply it by 60 times, I think? Something like that. Anyway, it's a lot of people, Chuck. And you know what? There were some people in that crowd that were cheering for Team 1, and there were some people in that crowd cheering for Team 2, and there were some people that were just there for the fights, regardless. And you could have one person standing in the middle of that arena saying, "I represent all of you," and everyone would boo them.
And what happens? You end up disengaging. a lot of people feel as if they're out of touch, and you have a large congressional district, you're more likely to disengage. And the more we disengage, we've seen what's happened. Congress over the last 30 years is so far away from the people, so afraid to make decisions, they keep handing power to the executive branch.
Okay, all right. Now, on that point, we can agree. That is a broken part of our system. Okay, so Chuck, Todd, and I are at an accord on that point. But having said that, I am still waiting for this cure to what ails us.
And by doing that, it has created, frankly, this polarized society that we've had this entire century.
It got particularly worse under Obama, but anyway.
Where we have these knockdown, drag-out fights over who's going to be king of the country, when really it was never what the intended design of our government and our small d democracy was meant to be.
Okay, Chuck, Todd, and I are on the same page on this one, which is nice to know. Okay, so we both hate the idea of a consistently empowered executive. Great. I'd like to see, now, if somehow in the course of this he has a solution to that problem, I don't see how increasing the size of the House of Representatives gets us there, though.
And here's the beauty of this fix of our current political problems. We don't need a constitutional amendment to do this.
Oh.
All you need is an act of Congress.
Okay. Why would Congress? You just outlined the entire problem. Okay. Congress keeps ceding power to the executive to take pressure off of themselves to not have to make controversial decisions, not have to put their own interests at risk, and instead dump it onto the executive. Why in the world would Congress, the House of Representatives specifically, and the Senate as well, having to deal with the House of Representatives, why would they choose to dilute their power? Now, maybe he's got a good argument on sort of a pie-in-the-sky level, but pragmatically speaking, what incentive, Chuck, can you manifest out of the ether that would make Congress or the House of Representatives want to do this? I think of that scene in Hunt for Red October. It's like, how do you get people to want to abandon a submarine? How do you get people to want to abandon a nuclear... What is it, Chuck? What's your solution? How do you get Congress to abandon their power base?
So here's my plan.
Okay.
Let's get back to where the House consistently expands with the size of the population.
How?
Now, in order to sort of catch up, I want to start with 400,000.
No, Chuck. You've gone too far already. How will you convince Congress to do this? The specifics of how you want to divvy it up, that's actually further on down the road. First, you got to tell me, what is the incentive for Congress to want to do this?
That's the cap. So where did I come up with 400,000?
I don't know, Chuck. Where did you come up with 400,000? It's 100,000 more than what it was in the beginning?
The 50th largest city in America is Arlington, Texas.
Okay.
They're right at 50, and their population is, yesterday it might have been 399,000, and I think today it might be just over 400. But
so you're just taking the average city in America for population count and just saying that's where the district should be. Okay.
It's right there, right at 400.
Now,
I'd argue Arlington is a community of interest.
Every community is a community of interest. They have an interest for the... What?
For those of you that are familiar with Arlington, Texas, that's the home of the Dallas Cowboys.
I don't care.
So Jerry Jones is your biggest constituent.
So that's a vote in favor of this being a representative of... Okay.
If you're representing that constituency.
Should the Dallas Cowboys have their own representative then? Should Jerry Jones have his own representative in the House of Representatives?
But 400,000 feels, you're not representing all of Dallas, all of North Texas. You're representing the community of interest of Arlington, Texas.
Which obviously is just a hive mind with only one direction that they care about on any given day. It's not a 400,000 collection of multiple people with multiple ideas, multiple priorities, and probably multiple political persuasions. But okay, 400,000. That's your magic number.
So 400,000. So what would that do?
I don't
It would
know.
take us to 881 members of Congress. And
I'm glad you can do the math. I can't. Chuck, what incentivizes Congress to make this change?
know what some of you were thinking.
Oh, you know what? Uh-oh, that's mind reading assumes motives. Now, if he's right, I mean, it doesn't change the fact whether he's right or wrong, but if he's right, I'll be impressed. Because I'm thinking, how do you get Congress to do this?
First of all, if you live in Washington, you're like, no more traffic. Oh my God. More politicians means more staffers, means more like.
Okay, at least in the sentiment, he's not far off the mark, so good on Chuck.
But believe it or not, more politicians is a good thing, not a bad thing.
Tell me why ain't nothing but a sales pitch. Well, it's not a sales pitch for a product or service, but I really want to know why. Why is it not a bad thing?
Because it means there would be more voices representing more people. It's called democracy.
Okay, benevolent condescension. Right then, it's like, hey guys, it's free real estate. Like, come on. Yeah, well, we have democracy right now, don't we? Chuck, how do you know that adding another 400 some odd voices isn't just going to take us to the exact same result? Is 400 more voices going to claw back power from the executive? You know, because that's going to become a non sequitur if you don't address that one. You don't, I mean, again, something I agree with Chuck Todd on, but if he brings it up in the course of the presentation, presumably he's going to answer that with this solution. So, how does adding 400 more plus voices to the conversation fix the problems you have already listed? Okay, okay, that look on his face, that smug little look, come on, man.
881 people. I don't think it would be just the two parties.
You don't? Oh, okay. Well, tell me, Chuck, what other grandiose entity is going to visit itself upon the House of Representatives if you just double the population in this country at this time, as polarized as it is?
That would have all 881 members of Congress.
No, okay, you're right. It wouldn't be all, but it would be most, wouldn't it, Chuck?
I think when you have a smaller playing field, you would get more diverse membership in Congress. And
okay, him saying diverse does not mean I circle diversity, equity, and inclusion, unless he goes somewhere else with this.
diversity comes in all types of ways. It's not just diversity in looks
It shouldn't be at all, should it, Chuck?
or in ethnicity.
It should not be at all a consideration, should it, Chuck?
It'll be diversity of political thought.
Oh, now we get to thought. It's the third one on the list. Okay.
I think you'll get libertarians.
You probably would to some degree.
I think you'll get Green Party members.
Maybe.
You know, when we had a very activist House of Representatives that was constantly growing, we had a lot more third party and fourth party and independent members of the House.
Maybe, Chuck. Okay. What is the ingredient missing from this, Chuck? We're now we're over halfway through your talk, and I have still not heard of your proposal for how to incentivize Congress to make this change. As you said, it does not require a constitutional amendment. I'll take your word for it. I'm not a legal expert. But on that basis, Chuck, yeah, it could do all these things. Oh my gosh, guys, if we add 400 more voices to the House of Representatives, it'll do this, this, and this. It'll slice, it'll dice, it'll julienne fries. I can't tell you how many amazing things that might happen, that could happen. Great. Let's start with the how, Chuck. You know, you were a reporter once, sort of. It was one of the, who, where, why, what, and how. Or who, what, where, why, and how. Yeah, it was the last one. I know it's the last one on the list, but it was an important one.
Let's go look at the membership in the 19th century and the early 20th century.
Why? Why should we?
But since we've capped the House, it's become this sort of two-party duopoly.
There have been independent members of the House of Representatives, Chuck. I'm pretty sure that across the last couple decades, there have been Libertarians and Green Party members, here, there, and otherwise. Okay, and then you take those numbers, those tiny numbers in comparison to 435, and you multiply them by 2, by 3 maybe, if you're lucky, and then what, Chuck?
But there's a couple other things that make this idea give some intended consequences that actually creates a couple of fixes that will only restore more people's faith in the democracy.
Chuck, how do you make it happen? You can, and I'm assuming at this point this is all that the rest of the talk's going to be. You can spend the rest of your talk telling us all about the glittering prizes we will all receive if this happens. But until you tell me how. Yeah, it's sort of like, I recall during the 2016 election, I think it was, I did a video. Maybe it was the 2020 election, I forget now. But there was a video I did on Bernie Sanders. And I called it Burnt, B-E-R-N-T, Burnt Offerings. Because it was this interview with Bernie Sanders, and I took a portion of it. I think it was like a Now This interview. And the person was asking him, like, okay, so how are you going to make all of these promises happen? Or do you think you're over-promising? Because Bernie Sanders was promising, free college and universal health care and minimum income, etc. And the entire time I thought, especially with the taxes and all this other things and all the financial stuff, I thought, the president doesn't have the power to do that. The power of the purse is down to the House of Representatives and so on and so forth. And I thought, okay, well, if I'm listening to somebody saying, how are you going to do this, or are you over-promising? I would say, well, you can make all these proposals, but ultimately you have to tell me what your plan is to convince Congress to go along with you, to sign off on these things. All right, because it's not the president's authority, at least not yet, to do those unilaterally. So yeah, you can promise things out the yin-yang, but unless you've got a plan for how you're going to... And I would give a presidential candidate who gives me a plan for how they would try to bring the parties together in order to make something happen. Whether or not it eventually succeeds is kind of beside the point. I have to take what their plan is into my, personal assessment of whether or not I want to put my vote behind them. But if they at least had a plan, if they could articulate their strategy for bringing the parties together to get something done, that might convince me to at least give them a shot. Did Bernie Sanders give a plan as to how he would do that? Of course not. No, he just said, yeah, it'll happen. Thank you, Frosted Glass. If only Pericles had access to Chuck Todd's mind. See, I did take my Greek mythology class in college. I don't remember what Pericles did. I remember the Damocles sword. There are a bunch of Cleeses. John Cleeses.
Here's the biggest fix it makes.
Okay.
Without a constitutional amendment, this will solve the Electoral College dilemma.
There's an Electoral College dilemma. It always seems like there's an Electoral College dilemma on the side of the people who lost the last election.
Right. We have now had twice in the last 25 years. The popular vote winner has lost the Electoral College.
Oh my God. Do you know why that is, Chuck? Do you know why the Electoral College exists, Chuck? You're the political guru. Do you... Well, maybe you would. You probably would. But do you really want California and New York to keep deciding the presidential election over and over and over again? You'd probably like that, wouldn't you? You complain about representing the people. Well, let's try representing the individual sovereign states of the United States. All right. Contradicts own point or fails to make argument. Because if he's going to deny the necessity of the Electoral College and play up the popular vote as the mechanism that should decide the presidency, then his complaints about true representation of the people just went out the window.
Previous to those two times, we'd only had it happen once in over 100 years.
Oh my God. And?
Again, there was a reason for that, because as we were expanding the House, right, the Electoral College numbers grew with it.
Oh my God, Chuck.
And so it was up until it was more likely that the popular vote winner would match.
But why should it, Chuck? You remember the part about this being the United States of America, not the popular vote of America? Faustonia, thank you so much. I got here late, but seeing Chuck Todd doing a TEDx seems surprisingly fitting. Yeah, when I mentioned this to Monkey last night, he was a surprise as well. I mean, as much as surprised as I was, I thought of all places Chuck Todd would land at least on a regular, actual cream of the crop, top of the heap TED Talk. But TEDx, I mean, he must be going to the people. Going to them where they are, as they say. But anyway, okay, still waiting for the how, Chuck. You want to eliminate the Electoral College, right? You want to bring balance back to the force where the popular vote and the Electoral College match up in elections, or just make it irrelevant altogether. Okay. You're upset about 2016 still. You're still upset about 2016. You're still ticked off that Hillary Clinton screwed up her campaign in the Rust Belt so badly. She did it to herself. I've played up this book before. If you really, there's a series of books now made by these same two authors. It's a book called Shattered, and it talks all about the ins and the outs of the Hillary Clinton campaign. It is an amazingly informative and insightful book on the modern electoral process and the particulars of what went on behind the scenes at the time. And listening to it now in some sections, especially talking about Joe Biden, with the retrospective knowledge we have about what happened with the next election thereafter, it becomes even more interesting. Echoes of what is to come at that time. Those two authors did two more books afterwards covering the Biden election and then, of course, the secondary Trump campaign. The Biden election book was meh. It felt awfully softballed. But the book they did about the Kamala Harris-Donald Trump battle was very interesting, though I still think they kind of blunted their Kamala Harris coverage. Anyway, that's me making a sales pitch for a product or service, not Chuck Todd.
The Electoral College winner. Now, of course, because we have condensed things, you have in our polarized environment, probably a 5 to 10% chance that we're going to have that kind of split decision.
Chuck, let me ask you something. If it really does come down to the electoral votes of individual states, and if you cannot rely on the popular vote to make up for all of your flaws as a candidate, doesn't that mean that the presidential candidates are thus, at least, I guess, maybe not required, but at least encouraged then to spend time in every state they can and get to know and care about the priorities and the problems in the constituent states that they are looking to oversee as President of the United States? Wasn't your initiating argument here that there are too many people for any one representative to know everything about? Well, here's the thing, Chuck. The president is overseeing only 50 states. So if the Electoral College, as opposed to the popular vote, has to be taken into account, isn't it a good thing that presidential candidates have to care about some of the lesser states and their opinion of them? To campaign there? To see what's going on in those states? To make, at the very least, lip service promises to them about their problems and their desires? Chuck, when it comes to representation? Chuck?
And that is no way to make people feel as if we have a small d democratic, fair election system.
Okay. Chuck has lost me on this one. Sorry, Chuck.
But here's the beauty of expanding the House.
Chuck? How? How, Chuck? Not what comes after. How do you get there in the first place?
So take the issue of Wyoming versus California in the Electoral College.
You're going to have to remind me.
Currently in our current system, if you live in Wyoming, you have 6 times more influence on the presidential vote in the Electoral College than if you live in America's largest state, California.
Oh my God, does that mean people actually have to pay attention to the lesser states? Oh my God, Chuck. All right, well, my body is ready. Tell me and all of the Wyomingians why they should matter less than California.
Under my plan, a Wyoming voter would still have more say in the presidential election than a California voter.
Really?
But the ratio goes down to 2.5 to 1.
By expanding the House of Representatives? Okay. Again, not a political scientist here. Maybe I'm completely blanking on how electoral college votes are apportioned.
Which I would argue is actually within what the framers intended. Remember the other thing the framers were concerned about. Large states having too much influence over small states, but giving small states at least a shot at some equality there.
Or is he talking about representation in the House of Representatives? He moved from the Electoral College to the other, whatever he's... Okay, now I'm confused.
This balances things out.
It balances things out, but you want to get rid of the Electoral College, which would completely imbalance things.
Here's the second thing it does.
I love the fact that he's so concerned about proportional representation, and yet he's completely willing to toss out the Electoral College.
We all hate gerrymandering, right?
Gerrymandering. And both parties do it, Chuck.
Well, when you have 435 pieces of the puzzle,
yeah.
Those are big pieces of the puzzle. It's kind of easy to manipulate big pieces of the puzzle.
It's not easy. Chuck, if there's one thing I've learned from years and years and years of tabletop role-playing games, if you have a book with rules in them, if there is any space in between the lines in which someone could potentially abuse those rules, they will find it.
You have 881 pieces of this puzzle?
Yeah?
Much smaller, much harder to create these ridiculous, like I-85 congressional districts are my favorite. Like Ohio goes along the border of, I think, Lake Erie, for 150 miles, as if people that just live on the coast of a lake all have something in common.
Yeah, because obviously, as we know, House legislatures, state legislatures, and representatives in the House of Representatives, they won't form cartels or cabals for their own interests over time. Obviously not. I mean, if we add more politicians, obviously you reduce the instincts of politicians, Chuck.
Right? They don't share the same school systems. They don't share the same transportation systems and things like that. But it created, right, the political result that they wanted.
Okay, you've wandered away from the point, Chuck. How are you going to make Congress want to do this?
Well, if you have 881 pieces, it's just, I'm not saying gerrymandering is not going to occur.
Gerrymandering. You're not saying gerrymandering won't occur? Then what? Then what in the hell are you talking? Good gravy.
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
Then why bring it up, Chuck? Why bring it up? Chuck me boyo. Why?
Okay, it's human nature.
Oh, it's human nature. Anything else on the list of political sins you want to chalk up to human nature that will not be cured by adding another 400 voices to the problem?
Politics, people are always looking for an advantage. It's just
Yes, Chuck, you're correct. So how does adding more politicians to the mix solve for this problem? Why are you here?
going to be that much harder to manipulate the system.
It's not, Chuck. It's going to be that much harder to manipulate. Chuck, to steal a quote from Jurassic Park and Ian Malcolm, life finds a way, Chuck. It baffles me, because it's one of those things where, several times on this show, we've had somebody come out on a stage and say, I'm a 30-year veteran of DEI, right? And I think to myself, well, golly gee, 30-year veteran of DEI. If you've got, after that much time, you have to have at least a relatively convincing elevator pitch for what you do and the benefits thereof, right? Like, I've worked at my company now for nearly 20 years. And even though I've never worked in the sales department, even though I can't code my way out of a paper bag, if someone stopped me and said, "What does your company do and why should I pay for it?" I would be able to give. And I'm not just tooting my own horn here. Just through osmosis in that time, I would be able to give a completely convincing sales pitch. I would have absorbed the knowledge from the surrounding elements, even though I'm not an expert in everything else that the business does. Chuck Todd has been, embedded in American politics for years and years and years now. And yet I'm listening to him and he sounds like a naive teenager going into college, hoping to get a political science degree. Or maybe I'm just way too cynical. I don't know. I don't know which one it is. But good gravy, man. How can you know the fallacies of human beings when it comes to political power, and yet at the same time pretend that simply adding more of them will somehow dilute the result?
So look, we've got a lot of problems.
Yeah. This talk being one of them.
To fix this we know our current system is broken.
Okay, sure. I'll extend you the benefit of the doubt, Chuck. And you've got less than a minute, and you still haven't told us how you would make this happen. You're selling us a bill of goods, Chuck.
Whether it's faith in the democracy, whether it's faith in what I've done for a living in being a journalist.
Being a what?
I would argue the problems are solved if you do the same thing, which is get closer to the people.
Just then, I couldn't help but think of the old adage, do you know the definition of insanity?
We journalists need to get closer to the people.
You what?
And report what's going on in their communities.
Yeah.
And our politicians need to get closer to the people.
Well, not too close. Then you get a lawsuit.
They're not going to do it on their own.
No.
We can do it if we uncap the House. You want to make the presidential race seem fair again? Uncap the House.
Okay, A, you haven't convinced me that uncapping the House will do any of that. And B, not telling us how you would make it happen or convince Congress to do it in the first place is a showstopper. All of this entire talk was completely a waste of time without that element. And I would take, for the sake of the discussion, I would take even the most idealistic, pie-in-the-sky, 30,000-foot level plan for how to make that happen. At least then there'd be something to talk about. But to not even mention it tells me you have no idea how to make it happen.
You want to make democracy seem local again? Uncap the House. You want to have members of Congress that you might actually know in your community? You uncap the House.
Okay, attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase. He's repeated that enough times now. Then I'm going to circle that one. Uncap the House. Uncap the House. Circling uncap the House. Well, no, circling attempt to coin new buzzword.
Simple solution
It's not a simple solution.
It follows the framers. It's constitutional.
It's not a simple solution because you've offered no solution. You've offered a bunch of promises. Chuck, you are the Bernie Sanders of this subject. I'm going to give you free health care. I'm going to give you free college. I'm going to give you a solution to our political problems. I'm going to give you a solution to the presidential election. I'm going to give you this. I'm going to give you this. I'm going to give you this. How, Chuck? How? This is almost, it's so eerie how I'm having the exact same thoughts about Chuck Todd here as I was having about Bernie Sanders 5 years ago.
And all it takes is an act of Congress.
Yes.
So yes, the solution to all our problems is more politicians. Anyway, thank you very much.
That was god-awful. I'm no Chuck Todd historian, but I would have thought, and obviously, I'm sad to be proven wrong, that after years and years, surrounded by sometimes, people I may not agree with, but sometimes intelligent people, politicians themselves. How many politicians has Chuck Todd interviewed in his career, you think? How many minds of politicians, even if they're just putting on their best face, has Chuck Todd encountered in his career that he hasn't absorbed some insight, some notion of ego or strategy or politic, that he couldn't create even a basic framework of a plan to convince Congress to do this, and given an unbidden time on a TEDx stage of all places, it doesn't even occur to him to spell it out. That boggles me. Good gravy. Thank you, Frosted Glass. Worked for MSNBC, and this is deep. Yeah. It just can't even make a... You don't... How many times have we said this on this series? If you bring up a problem in the course of your presentation, the expectation is you'll at least offer a veneer of a solution. But, what are you going to do? I gave Chuck a chance. Fair chance, I think. Didn't convince me, but what do you guys think? Let's go over to the bingo card. Let me refresh this here. So this is the bingo card as I have it right now. I'm going to go over it one more time by myself. If you guys have arguments for squares to be circled, hold on to your arguments. I will get to you momentarily. And let's go. Marginalize marginalization. Yes, by talking about how each representative doesn't speak for everybody in their constituency or their district, he's effectively saying that there are people being disenfranchised and or marginalized in the process. So I will take that one. Self-vilification or wretchedness. He didn't talk about himself that much, which I was actually kind of surprised by. I thought he would at least reference more. In the abstract, he did near the end talking about being a journalist, quote unquote. But I thought that maybe he would have given us something about himself in there, but I didn't hear anything that was self-vilifying. Feminism, no. Microaggressions, unconscious bias. Maybe there's a way to tease that one out, but I'm not thinking about it. Privilege. Yes. Wyoming had more say than California. Now we'll make it more fair where Wyoming will still have more say than California. Weightless example, non sequitur. Well, basically this entire talk, because he never offered up a how, but specifically the abdication of powers to the executive branch. He brought that up, and not even in his pie-in-the-sky hopefulness did he describe how adding more members to the House of Representatives would either curtail that or solve it. So, plays victim. Yes, I'm going to circle this one because this was all one giant complaint. And he's still butthurt over the Hillary Clinton election, or lack thereof. Collectivize his own demographic. Okay, this is kind of a gimme because he was talking about the American people, the electorate, the voters, and so on. It's hard to avoid that one because it's very specific. So in this case, even though he wasn't talking about like, and also journalists, etc. So yeah, there's a couple options there. There's a couple options that make sense. And so, with that being the case.
I had a dog, and his name was...
What?
I had a dog, and his name was...
Bingo!
Of course!
Okay, economic disparity. He did talk about moneyed interests, special interests controlling the votes, etc., early on in the talk. So, yes, I think that's fair. Deceptive statistics. Okay, the only statistics he came up with were historical numbers of how many people were represented back in the olden days and how many are represented now. None of that sounded deceptive. It just sounded like facts. So I need if that's going to be circled, I'm going to need a very clear example of how somehow that was misleading in some way. A list, yes, because he gave us a long and varied list of what he said were the benefits of increasing the population of the House of Representatives. So a list is there. Patriarchy. He never brought up gender in the whole thing, so feminism and patriarchy really don't work. Anecdote that probably never happened. Well, I thought for a second there at the beginning, I thought he was giving us one, but then he gave us one that's general enough and specific enough to his history of employ that I could kind of believe it. People complaining to him or asking him for his expertise on why things are so bad in politics and so on. I feel like that's not too far afield. Maybe he's generalizing a bit at the same time, though. That was his bread and butter for his entire TV career. So, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay, he did use the word diversity. I'm on the fence as to whether or not it applies here, because we're not just talking about the use of the words, we're talking about the concept behind DEI, promoting a non-meritocratic process or result or something. Okay? And thanks again to Luke Skywalker, too, for suggesting that caveat to clear it up. This is not a list of just words used in the course of the presentation. It's a concept that has to be promoted in some way. Now, again, he did bring up diversity, and he said it's not just about appearance, not just about ethnicity. Okay, so he just, as far as I can tell, and I'm happy to take arguments otherwise, he just skirted by qualifying for that one. But you let me know. White supremacy, no, not really. Childhood or family anecdote, he never talked about himself, strangely enough. Leaves out vital context. Boy, howdy. And by howdy, I emphasize the first syllable. How? How, Chuck? How? How many times did I ask for the how? We never got it. Sales pitch for product or service. No, he did not pitch a particular product or a service. He was pitching an idea poorly, but there was no tangible anything attached to it. And word salad. In a general sense, this entire talk was word salad because there was no point. It was just a series of promises and wishful thinkings. There wasn't anything, dare I say, substantive to hold on. So, there you go. That is the card as I have it. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, put them in the chat now. If I've missed your argument, please just repost it. If you say scroll up, I'm going to ignore you. Although I always scroll up a little bit at the beginning. Keeverdam also reminds you, if you care, I have a merchandise store. Yay! You can get a Scribe-like coffee mug, or a TEDXcellence coffee mug, or a shirt with my face on it, or a Moonbase Crater Valley shirt, or a Pepperjack shirt, or a COVID mask that says "Got It" on it, which is Counterproductive, but all the same. Advocates Diaboli, his depiction of the current state and balance of the Electoral College between large and small state definitely borders on, if not steps directly into, deceptive statistics. Let me think about that one for a second. Oh, and also, Amada Wolfchild reminds you, if you haven't already, please do hit that like button. Because that supposedly tells the YouTube algorithm something. And especially with the changes they've made recently, little channels like mine need all the help they can get. And you can provide that help. Okay. Balance electoral cost between a slash system. Okay, well, I circled it for contradicts own point in that way. Let me think about that. Well, you're right. It just... It's right on the line between deceptive statistics, but more so contradicts own point or leaves out vital context. It's... Yeah, if somebody has a... And no offense, advocate. If somebody has a clearer example of deceptive statistics, and you know, depending on the circumstances and the argument, there's some wiggle room for what counts as a statistic, but he didn't give us any really percentages, no graphs, no, statements of certainty based on a couple of percentage points. Let's see. Frosted Glass. Deceptive statistics. A Wyoming voter would still have more say than a California voter. We all know smaller states would have no say under his system. Okay, you're right. You did. That's right. He did talk about the ratio. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. Yeah, that was a little hinky without some more explanation. All right. Deceptive statistic is as it is, and because of that, if you can believe it.
Bingo. What? Of course!
All right, moving on. Any more arguments for squares to be circled? Scroll the... Okay, well, it's keyword I'm asking. What am I scrolling up for? See, that's the other thing, too. Just scrolling up doesn't tell me anything. Like, it could be anything. Amada, you should have a square that just says being a douchebag. It would be like a free space. Yeah. Oh, well. Let's see. What's this? Uh-oh. Killer Turnus! Hello. Hey, Scribbles. Gonna bedtime listen topic. The topic is why we should expand the House of Representatives, as in its population count. No spoilers. That's the topic. So I'll let you catch up by the time you get to bedtime. You're met. Why would you met? Look, what am I? You gotta mess with me. Why are you picking on me? Let's see. Advocatus. Anecdote that never happened. Chuck Todd doing journalism. See, here's at least the benefit I will give to Chuck Todd. Under the current definition, Chuck Todd is a journalist. I do not want to deny him that title in the modern parlance. So, there you go. Roasted Opinions. Diversity was used in context of the concept. He mentioned underrepresented groups. Yeah, but you see, underrepresented groups are part and parcel with talking about representation. So, was he... Here's the question. Was he promoting somewhere in here an ascension of someone to a role they had not earned? In it clearly so. Talking about diversity of opinions, talking about diversity of constituency, does not DEI make. And that's, again, I know I'm being a nitpicker here, but we really, for the sake of that square, we really need to focus on what is the fundamental purpose of DEI. Maybe I should just change that square to DEI or DEI sentiments or something, rather than a list of words, because we keep getting caught up on the vocabulary. So that's what I'm asking for. If you've got it, if you've got an argument for it, by all means. But yeah, you can't talk about the House of Representatives or politics without talking about the Well, I guess you could, but I mean, generally speaking, when you're talking about political representation, you're going to be referring to some group or some demographic that is not fully represented because of just the way that politics works in the two-party system. Frost goes, DI, representation may not be diversity, but it is inclusion. Again, we're not talking about we're caught up in the same problem that all of the state legislatures are right now by putting diversity, equity, and inclusion into their new anti-DEI bills. We get caught up on the dictionary definitions of the words rather than the overall concept behind the phrase and movement of DEI. I think I might revise that square. Make it DEI. Let's see. Anything else, everybody? Any other arguments for squares to be circled? Programming note. My weekend is uncertain right now. There is a notion, may or may not, tomorrow and onward, going up to visit my parents again. So I'm keeping everything kind of open due to current circumstances. So I intend to have a Saturday stream, a Dog, Cat, Fox, and Friends stream. However, do not hold me to that, as circumstances may change. So just keep your eyes out on the Discord server and also on the Twitter machine for any updates on those type of things. Last call for arguments for squares to be circled. Put them in the chat now. And of course, if you have an argument that got missed or you think of it after you've watched the show after the fact, you can always leave a comment, or you can leave your argument over on the Discord server itself, a link to which will be provided momentarily. Last call. Roasted opinions. DEI is a primary theme. Would that work? Oh, for the square? Something like that. Yeah, I think for the sake of clarity that I'll make that revision soon, because we keep getting hung up on that. And that's, it's partially my fault. I've allowed that square to be circled in the past simply at the mentioning of any one of those three words. So that's mostly my fault. Advocatus. His mention of the locking in the number of House seats was pointing out the bias of the Congress of the time. But it certainly wasn't unconscious or a microaggression. Yeah, that's a stretch. And it's not, maybe not a Mr. Fantastic stretch, but maybe a Stretch Armstrong stretch. A little bit. Yeah, just bringing up bias. Everybody has biases. It's got to be something where it's, an unconscious bias, a stereotype, a discriminatory thought or something. It doesn't quite. I don't know. Yeah, like I say, this one subject matter wise was outside of the usual wheelhouse for this bingo card. But the bingo card tests TEDx's in general. We take on all comers as it comes to topics and speakers. And so this is what we have. 2 bingos and a WTF. Not too shabby if the goal is to... I mean, I would think that the better TEDx talks have the fewest squares circled. Maybe. I mean, it could be just completely boring talk, too. But anyway, with that, guys, we're going to start wrapping things up. Now, I mentioned the Discord server earlier. If you'd like to join the Discord server, link to the Discord server is in the chat right now. All you have to do is click on that link, and you'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word tells me you're not a bot. Actually watch the stream and have thus earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is electoral. Sure. Just say, hello, electoral, and I'll know that you watched the show. Outside of that, again, there may or may not be a Saturday stream this week. But if there is, it'll be at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern for Dog, Cat, Fox, and Friend, where I'll go over some news stories of the week. I'll probably aim towards some humorous or light stories given current events. But there you go. Also, unless something comes up, and something did come up today, that if it had come up on Friday, this would be a wrench. But granted, something doesn't come up tomorrow, Friday, at 9:05 a.m. Pacific Time, noon 05 p.m. Eastern Time. I will be joining the panel on Midnight's Edge in the morning to talk about movies and all types of entertainment stuff. And functionally, it may be my last appearance on that show for a while, because starting next Monday, Midnight's Edge in the Morning is moving their time slot back by 2 hours, which places it smack dab in the middle of my workday. So yeah, it'll be a little bit of a goodbye tomorrow after a fashion. Not a never see you again, but probably for the foreseeable future. So there will be that. I've cooked up a couple of fun poster advertisements for the show's new time slot. I'll be showing those off tomorrow. Hope you tune in for that. But otherwise, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated, and I can't. I would be remiss if I didn't highlight Stoka, Brett Ide here. Holy cow, guys! I do not know what to say. It's ridiculously generous of you. I'm humbled by it, sincerely, and I'm going to pay it forward as best as I can very soon. So whether you donated to me, or especially, guys, please take a look at the top of the chat box, the donation link to Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. I appreciate if you take a look at that. If you can donate, please do so. But even if you can't, please share that out on social media. And as well, before you leave, if you'd leave a like, I'd like that. Leave a comment, even better. If you subscribe and not already subscribed, that'd be great. And if you share this stuff out to other people so they can find out I exist, that'd be even better. You should tick all those boxes. You get a veritable merit badge from me for doing all that stuff. And as we are now 1 month away from my 9th anniversary on YouTube, a preemptive thank you all. So many familiar names and faces on here over many, many years now. Some of you since nearly the beginning. I'm looking at you, Amada. Thank you guys so much for your patronage and your attention and your time. Really do appreciate it, sincerely. But with that, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Everyone, have a good rest of your Thursday evening. I hope your Friday ahead of you is a relaxing one, and that we all just have a good day around the world elsewise, and your weekend as well. And I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.